viewers from around the world. Welcome to Gold. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC here at Gold. And here at Gold, we are in the process of creating a brand new lecture pack titled Safe Travels Best Practice for Neonatal Transport. Lecture pack that we have available starting June 1st. And with me here is one of our speakers, Dr. Andrew Berry. Hello, Dr.
Hello,
Berry.
Kristen.
So good to
Hello,
have you.
Kristen.
It's so good to have you here. We have a little bit of a lag in the, in the video, but that's okay because we are in totally different continents, right, Dr. Berry? Where are you located?
I'm in Australia, near Sydney, Australia.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So you are in a very unique position here. You are a pilot, but also a neonatal transport expert. So tell us a little bit about your background here and how it all came to pass that where you are now.
Yes, I trained as a neonatologist and worked in that field exclusively for several decades and became increasingly interested in the challenges of the newborn that wasn't born in a NICU equipped hospital and wasn't close enough to a large hospital to get the care they needed pretty quickly. And I work in a part of the country, a state which is about the size of Texas, and has lots of patients that need neonatal intensive care who are a long way from it. And in the past, they would be brought by whatever means were available to local staff. And unfortunately, they commonly deteriorated on that journey. Some of them even died. And many, it wasn't attempted because the doctors and nurses knew that they would never survive that journey. So in parallel with an interest in aviation, which led me to I get my pilot's license and later a helicopter license. We developed a system for taking the expertise out there to where the patient was born and reverse the whole process. That is, start the intensive care before the journey rather than rely on it after the journey to be effective.
That's absolutely amazing. You saw there was a need and you acted on it. You got your pilot license and later on also for the helicopter pilot's license and went out there and created the system. That's absolutely fantastic and very, very dedicated. I can imagine there are many challenges, and I have the highest respect for teams who go out there in transportation. There is so many things to consider, right? I mean, first of all, working in such a tight space that's moving up and down and flying, and there's a lot of vibration, lots of noise. The equipment is very heavy that needs to be brought on board, and then you have the tiniest of patients, the most vulnerable of patients there to take care of. So I can only imagine all the challenges that are involved in situations like that.
Yes, that's right. I think that's why we put the focus on doing most of what we do in the local hospital. We really want to make the journey itself a place where we don't have to respond to problems. We really want to eliminate risk, have the patient perfectly stabilized and packaged. It's sometimes called a stay and play approach. But for most problems, that's fine, particularly for newborns, where you really want to have the patient not needing an escalation of care during the journey, not needing something happened unpredictably, making sure everything's secure and having equipment that works for you instead of having to respond to problems in an improvised fashion during the journey.
Absolutely. Now, looking back into your career, when you first started out and you became involved in transport to now, things probably looked very different. Technology changes so quickly and so rapidly, right? Is it? I can imagine it must be also hard to keep on top of everything and update everything. That's also expensive, right? So, how is that in your unit? What do you see there?
Yes, well, it's both equipment, which was very improvised in the early days. If a patient needed intubation, it was handbagging. There wasn't a ventilator. You had an incubator. You didn't have proper monitoring. You chose to things were done by hand in many cases. I think the bigger change has probably been bringing the staffing to the level that this challenge requires. I'm embarrassed to say that we tried to do it with doctors who tried to be nurses. And we really missed not having the nurses of the NICU there to do all the little fiddly bits and make sure things were tidy and things were secured. And it was about a decade after starting that we brought nurses into what they now are the key players in neonatal transport. And nowadays we also have teams that are staffed by nurse practitioners and nurses. We also have enhanced teams for super specialty transports, such as nitric oxide and ECMO, where we have teams of 3 or 4 people instead of the basic 2-person team. So we're basically bringing both the equipment and the clinical expertise up to closer to the standard of the NICU, closer to the standard of the care the baby will receive when they arrive at the destination. And that has its challenges, but it is achievable, in my opinion, to be able to medically treat patients with at least as a higher quality of care before you transport as they're likely to receive in the short term after the transport. We like to think the most successful transports are ones where the baby starts their convalescence in the air and is already improving when they arrive in the destination hospital.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Due to your vast experience and your knowledge in the field, you're also being sought after to kind of develop systems elsewhere. And you've been also working internationally. Tell us a little bit about that, how the process goes when you're being contacted to develop a system.
Well, they're usually made because there's perceived to be a problem, but both in developing world environments and indeed the developed world. There are problems with achieving, I guess, what I've been just talking about.
Yeah.
They may be because of resources. They may be because there are opportunities there that just haven't been brought together. One of the things I've learned from that experience is no cookbook that works everywhere. If you're in North America, particularly in northern states or Canada, the book that emphasises how to keep babies really warm may get you into trouble if you're near the equator and you overwarm patients. So I'm very keen when embarking on one of these exercises is to understand the local health system, understand the demographics of perinatal care, where it's delivered, see where the lowest hanging fruit is in the whole process. And this is all, when we talk about transportation, the element that precedes and parallels the transportation process is a process of clinical advice. So there is a baby, they're sick, they're in a hospital without the resources. The first thing they do is pick up the phone and we talk to them, and we have a neonatologist talk to them. We have cameras that allow us to see the baby they're describing. We look at the x-ray that may have been taken about the x-ray. So we're already embedded in the care of the patient long before a transport team arrives at the bedside. So it may be those communication links are the most easily achievable solutions in a developing world environment, particularly. It may be the technology, it may be the aviation resources. So it needs to be customized.
That makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk briefly about the presentation that you will have here with us. Don't want to give too much away because we really want our viewers to come to this this great presentation that you have here for us. But so your presentation is titled "The Unique Challenges of Transporting Newborns by Air." So give us just a brief overview of what we can look forward to.
Well, I think air transport's very helpful if long distances are involved and you can't do the job other ways. But it's not necessarily set up to deal with babies as well as it might be. Both the cabins, the spaces, the types of aircraft, the people we need to carry. So I'll talk a little bit about those challenges in the presentation and how to make sure the things that happen to our bodies when we go up to altitude, when we're well away from the normal human physiological space of being on the ground, affect our bodies of our babies, who are, by definition, at a very vulnerable time of their physiological life, having just been born. So there are some special challenges. There are some hints and tweaks that I think will be useful to people to know how they can make sure their babies are safe when they're flown for urgent care.
Great. Thank you so very much of sitting down here with me, spending time talking about the amazing work you're doing out there in the field and about your upcoming presentation here. Thank you so much.
Great pleasure.
And now for our viewers, if you would like to find out more about this presentation and the other presentations in the lecture pack, we will invite you to visit Gold neonatal.com and goldlearning.com. You can find out all the information there as well. And thank you again, Dr. Barry, and many greetings to Australia to you. And thank you to our audience for watching. Bye bye, everyone.